Evening Intuitives. As promised, I said I was going to do more witchcraft videos, as the left-handed path is something I'm firmly set in after about a year of complacency, after being robbed of my dream job in Arlington and the goddess Diana essentially abandoning me for the most part. This video is going to be mainly towards seekers and dabblers in the left-handed path, people new to witchcraft who haven't really chosen their path, within the craft and are curious about the left-handed path. I want to just do some misconceptions about it and also some challenges of being on that path from my point of view. This may not be what other witches on the left-handed path have experienced, but again, this video is kind of for the baby witch, the novice, the dabbler, the person who knows what witchcraft is and has read up on it somewhat, but isn't like full on that path yet, or for people that are just interested in the craft and to get some misconceptions out of the way about what the left-handed path is. I'm going to mainly talk about what it's like to be on that path and not this is what it is and this is what we do. There's plenty of videos like that out there from people way more qualified than me. We'll put a disclaimer: if you are not a witch and you are not interested in the craft and you do not want to know what real witchcraft is like and you are simply here to tell me to find Jesus, please leave. I am respectful towards your religion. There are things I am curious about in your religion, and when I view videos on it, I don't try to convert people to my belief system. My beliefs are my beliefs. I have every right to have them. I understand where your concern may come from, but I was a Catholic for a time. I gave it a shot. And to be fair, I do still work with some angelic figures, mainly the Archangel Raziel, and on occasion, St. Michael. So, we all, of all faiths, we all believe in some form of higher power. How we interpret that and what we view as useful to us and what deity calls to us is between us and that deity. I'm not telling anybody to give up their belief systems. I'm simply saying you're not going to convert me. If you have questions, please be respectful, but you will not get me to bend the knee and blindly accept something else simply because you believe that that is by definition correct. And you have every right to believe that. But if you believe that's by definition correct, how can you know that if you never explored other belief systems for what they really are and merely just believe the propaganda being told? For example, if I was curious about Judaism more, and I have been, I would go like speak to a rabbi, someone who practices that faith. I wouldn't go to someone of a different faith, particularly a faith that doesn't like Judaism all that much, because they would not be inclined to tell me what people of the Jewish faith actually believe. And it's the same with witchcraft. We have been maligned through most of our history, a lot of it because it empowers women, and the Christian society really doesn't like that all that much, at least for the most part throughout history. I know there's exceptions modern day, but we're talking historically speaking. So just a little disclaimer. Okay, the left-handed path. If you're here, you probably know what that means. We're going to get into some struggles and misconceptions about it. It's not all powerful. Yeah, it's really powerful, but there's this Hollywood TV misconception that with the left-handed path and working with demons and dark entities, you get things like that. You don't. It doesn't work that way. Magic normally doesn't work instantaneously, and you have to do your part. Like, for example, somebody recently asked me for a job spell, and I did it for him. But it's like, dude, you gotta still put in applications. Like, someone's not gonna magically approach you and give you the job you want. You have to apply for it, and the spell will help bend the rules of chance to make that situation go in your favor. So many people, because I'm pretty open about being a witch, after all, I did lose my dream job because I was targeted for being one, and I might be the only, if not one of a few people who ever had to prove in a deposition that they are in fact the genuine witch, and instead of trying to deny it in order to save themselves. Yeah, kind of ironic when you think about it. So It's a little misconception about how quick spells work and all that. Dark entities, a lot of them have been slandered throughout history. They have bad reputations, as does the left handed path, as does many people on the left handed path, including me. The left handed path does seem to attract people who challenge the status quo, uh, people who are willing to be loners, who are willing to go their own path, who do not, believe in the whole there's strength in numbers. It's better to fit in. It's better to be better to be fake and be with people I don't want to be with, but have the security of numbers than actually be who I want to be and do what I want to do. And that never set well with me, but I am an INFJ, so it does make sense. Walking paradox. So left-handed path tends to call to people like that, people who aren't like, oh, if somebody hurts you or hurts someone you care about, we don't turn the other cheek. We get even, and as a sense of justice, not as a sense of malicious. There's a misconception about hexing too, but I'll save that for another video. Otherwise, I'll be here too long. So, darker entities, I obviously don't know all of them. I work most closely and in the process of forming a pact. I'm in the end stages of it with the goddess Lilith, probably the most maligned woman slash goddess in all of history, with a bad reputation. I'll tell you this much. Reputations about demons and dark gods and goddesses pretty much go the same as reputations about people. Some of it is true, some of it is debatable, but most of it is outright slander, usually as propaganda from a system, person, whatever, that sees something within that person, or in this case, that deity, that they want to destroy because a lot of times it's questioning the status quo. Like Lilith, we can't have her empowering people, mainly women, against our status quo, where women are told that they're second class citizens and must obey and fall in line. So, Lilith bad. After all, she is the first feminist. I mean, she basically, if you believe the stories, said to God, like, well, wait a minute, we were both created from clay, so we're equal. And now you're telling me, like, I got to be submissive to Adam. No, like, well, you must. And, or be exiled, and she chose exile. Pretty badass. And there's also stories, I won't get too deep into this, that she was the snake in the garden, instead of Satan, that she was the snake trying to empower Eve, her fellow woman, because if you think about it, the tree of knowledge, the apple, knowledge, what deity would not want someone to have knowledge? Well, unless you want to keep them ignorant and subservient. And it is interesting, little sidebar, because if you watch any of my other videos, I do sidebars all the time. It is interesting how often apples are used in a lot of different spells. And if you cut an apple, like not like this way, but this way, you see a perfect 5-star pentacle. Interesting, right? It's pretty interesting to me. So, working with these deities like Lilith, there's a lot of misconceptions about what to expect. And in my experience, if you are showing them genuine respect and giving offerings, they are actually pretty protective. Yes, it can be frightening at first, because if you grew up in a Judeo-Christian background where witchcraft was demonized, or even if you grew up in a family that, like traditional Stregonaria, like I did, where you have the craft and you kind of meld it with the Catholic beliefs. It's an Italian thing. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but you work more with light side deities like Diana. The left-handed path is still demonized, and you get that whole misconception of basically where anything left-handed path is just Crowley or Anton LaVey, and that's not the case. Each witch's craft is their own. So in my experience with Lilith, she's actually been pretty protective. She's been calling to me for years before I actually really, dove into that, other than calling upon her every once in a while to do a hex. But she can be intimidating. You have that, it's put in your head that these darker entities are scary, terrifying, and they can appear so. And some of them actually enjoy scaring you at first, because when you first evoke Lilith, it is like a whoa kind of moment. She's quite powerful and primal, and it might scare the hell out of you. But when you start forming that bond, she actually is, like a nurturing, loving mother type. And going back to the stories there, I'm left-handed, by the way. So I have read some mythology stories saying that, the reason why left hand is so sinister, and it's 13%, what an evil number, that those of us that are left-handed have a predisposition to the craft because we are indeed the children of Lilith. I don't know. I wasn't there. So, little fun fact. But these deities can be very protective of you. You must show the utmost respect to them and not be impatient. Lilith has been very, 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 very patient with me lately because I've been not so good in my testing that's been going on. And that is another thing I want to get into about the left-handed path. You will be tested. It is not like some people have this misconception. Well, all you do is like basically sell your soul and you get everything you want right away. Well, maybe. I don't know. I haven't sold my soul. And there is that conception, especially with Hollywood, like, oh, all they have to do is form this pact with this deity. And, it's like that. No, no. Like, these deities need to learn how to trust you and know that you're serious on this path. The left-handed path is not really for people who are dabbling in witchcraft. It is possible to sort of dabble in the left-handed path and just do a spell every once in a while when you need something, and they'll probably work, and you can be decent at spell crafting. But to truly be on this path and to truly want to follow it, to become the person that you really want to be, you need to be like all or nothing into it, constantly wanting to advance, constantly wanting more knowledge, and truly being connected to whatever entities that you're working with. And that's not without its challenges, because not all entities want to work with all people. Lilith's attention is quite hard to get to. Why I was fortunate enough that she chose me, especially being as that I'm male, I still don't know, but it's pretty awesome. And it's certainly nothing that I ever want to take for granted. I went full on down this path in June after years of being more, I wouldn't even say right-handed path, I would say more in the middle, mainly working with Diana. But the way things went in 2020, I've been looking more and more to the left-handed path. A friend of mine, a very more experienced fellow witch, she told me a year ago in September, on the anniversary of me losing my dream job, she's like, I got a feeling if things don't go, if things continue to be this shitty for you for another year, you're finally going to embrace the left-handed path. Because I was apprehensive to do that because of all the misconceptions and slander there is about the left-handed path. And there are aspects of it that I don't like, and there are aspects of it that, I am not participating in it, but my craft is my own, and my path pretty much is left-hand path now. Although it's not like every spell I do is dark magic. It's another thing. We don't just do dark magic. People think, it's not like, right-hand path, you're Glinda the Good Witch, and left-hand path, you're Wicked Witch of the West. It's not like that. Anyway, so that's another misconception. Understand that when you form relationships with demons or with dark gods and goddesses, they will test you. There will be times in your life where, you think they are messing with you, when indeed they are looking out for you. Like, they may, because they can see into the future. There may be a time in your life where, like, say you feel like you've been tested for a long time, and it seems like something good is finally coming your way. And out of nowhere, it goes to shit, and you can't make any sense of it. And people around you can't make any sense of it. Chances are that's happening for a reason. I mean, now don't think just because something doesn't go your way, you're being tested. I'm talking about, like, if you're like really in a state of change and you think something that came into your life, whatever it is like making your life better for the first time in a while, and it just like crashes out of nowhere and no one can make sense of it, you're probably being tested, probably because you formed a relationship with an entity that is now looking out for you, that can see down the future, like, this is gonna fuck you up, and it may even fuck up like your process, like your path. like your path in the craft and your path towards whatever your end game may be. And these entities will take it away from you for your own good. And you're going to be mad as all hell when that happens, even if you've been tested before, because your human emotions will get the better of you and you'll be like, why is this happening to me? And it may not make sense at the time. And you may go, probably will go into a deep depression for a few months until the reasons behind it become clear. Fortunately, if this is happening and you have a relationship with these deities, and you ask them, through astral communication, spirit board, whatever is your main way, if they did this, they will probably tell you that. Will probably not tell you why, but they will tell you that, yes, I did this. And normally it is not to mess with you. It's normally out of them protecting you to ensure that you continue on your path of ascension. It could be all kinds of things. It could be getting you out of a relationship that would, put you off your path, put you away from the craft, get you out of a job where you're stagnating if your goals, include success in your career or just financial success, or getting you out of a toxic area that's messing with your mental health. Now, two-edged sword, because there are times where a deity may be testing you on the left-handed path and you're getting this feeling like, I gotta run, I gotta get out of this situation. But you don't, because you think, oh, it's not that bad, because maybe you're someone like me whose life's kicked the shit out of more than once, and you get that, you know, that notion of, well, it could always be worse. Yeah, not always. So you may think that, or you may see something worth fighting for, but so you ignore, these feelings that some greater force is telling you to run, telling you to get away. Well, the spirit is, you're never going to win that fight, because if an entity, a deity, a demon, whatever is looking out for you, they will then have to push you to your breaking point. And if you don't know where your breaking point is, you'll know it when you reach it. Especially if you're someone like me who doesn't like gradually deteriorate, who can compensate with bullshit, compensate, nosedive. Yeah, you'll know. And you may feel broken at the time, but give it a little time and you'll realize that the situation that you were being pulled out of, that you felt you had to be pushed to your breaking point, is probably because whatever it was that you had to be broken over was inhibiting your path, and it's now forcing you to take the next steps. And I'm not talking just in witchcraft, I'm talking in life, because maybe your next step of ascension in the craft requires you to move, requires you to get away from certain people, requires you to have a job where you make more money, etc. There can be all kinds of things. That's something that you need to be aware of if you choose this path, because that scares a lot of people off. The fact that there could be times where you will be tested, and these entities will take stuff away from you, and it'll make you mad as all hell at the time. And fortunately, they understand that. They don't have human emotions, but they understand that that is our visceral reaction. And testing isn't like all the time. Usually, they're not going to beat you down all the time. People tell me, but it's been over 2 years for me, with a very brief reprieve, and then things got so much worse. But the longer the testing usually means that something really good and worthwhile is on the other side. Or the reason why the testing is so long is because you're a stubborn son of a bitch and you're not listening to all the signs telling you to run, and they have to keep pushing you and pushing you and pushing you and pushing you to break until you do. Yeah. So that could be it, but you're not constantly tested. Most left-hand path witches I've talked to said when they go through a period of testing, it's usually a couple months. Then they get like 8-10 months where things are great, and then the next test. And it doesn't mean every time you're tested that you're going to lose everything, or that you're even going to lose something. It may just be a time where you're being pushed to devote more time to your path, because when you really form a relationship with some of these entities, like, you better be all in, because they're not going to let you walk away. Like, this is something like, if you're in, you're in. And if they see potential in you and they want to work with you, they see something in you that could possibly help them, be it rehabilitate their name, or maybe you fight for things that they believe in, and they want to see you be successful, you can't just walk away one day if you decide, like, oh, this isn't for me. Like, say, for example, if you get in a relationship with someone of a different faith, let's just say an evangelical Christian, and you really like her. We're going to assume you're a guy because I'm a guy. And, she's making you choose between her and the craft, and you've been in the craft a while, and you've pacts with dark entities. Yeah, no, they're not going to let you walk away. That's not happening. Not happening. So be sure, if you're serious, before you dive full into the left-handed path and try to work with these darker entities, work on your astral senses. You have to have at least, them somewhat developed to be able to communicate. Know what you're getting into. Know how much the left-handed path is slandered, and really how much it scares the hell out of people. Like, be careful who you talk to. Okay, like, let's be honest, a lot of people still don't like witches, and especially if you're going to have in-depth conversations about witchcraft, because modern day, while broadly speaking, witchcraft is more acceptable. When most people think witchcraft, they think Wicca, they think crystals and bubbles and fluffy bunny kind of stuff. They don't think people like us in the left-handed path. That, you know, immediately shows images of Satan, and a lot of people know who Lilith is too, and it's like, oh, he works with the Queen of the Damned. Be careful of that. All right, be careful who you open up to. Even other witches who maybe they're not like that into the craft yet, or they're on a right-handed path. They might be curious about the left-handed path, but they're not ready to, I guess, have that information. Would be a good way to put it. Maybe they still have those misconceptions about what, you know, deities like Lilith and demons are, and it scares the hell out of them because, there's some pretty hardcore stuff in the left-handed path that someone who's not familiar with witchcraft all that well will be terrified of. I mean, mainly because of the misconceptions about it. Like, some people are still afraid of Ouija boards, and the misconceptions about spirit communication. Like, they expect to see a physical apparition all the time, which rarely happens, and when it does, it's out of the corner of your eyes and it's for a fleeting second. Or they expect to hear disembodied voices, which does happen, and I have had it happen recently. I had a very scolding female voice go, "Okay, Brett," like, it's like, oh, better stop asking for what I want. Yeah. So usually you'll hear, not to get too deep into this, but you need to have your third eye open for spirit communication, and usually you will hear a voice inside your head, usually with a mental image of whatever entity is speaking to you, and it'll come from out of nowhere, and you may feel physical touch. A lot of times when I'm in a trance, I rock back and forth as if Lilith is cradling me like a baby, and it's very soothing. So just a little bit on that. Be aware too when you try to help people with spells from the left-handed path, because a lot of people, don't understand how real spell work works. Some things are going to be scary. I'll give you some personal experiences, and this is especially true if you're male. And I know, male witches, not many of us, but we exist. So if you're going to do spells for people, especially spells where the person you're going to do it for has to be present, sometimes, especially if you're doing black magic, no matter how much you prepare the person for what's about to happen, they can't handle it, especially if you're male. Now, I'm especially speaking about hexes. I've done quite a few hexes for female friends and friends of friends over the years, hexing men who deserve it, let's just say, for varying degrees. And believe me, they truly deserve it. And I know that most of these hexes have worked. But hexing, not to get too deep into it, what do you need? What do you need to make a hex work? Fury, which, believe me, I have. INFJ Rage plus Witchcraft Fury. It's quite terrifying. So prepare people, but understand, even if people say they want your help from the left-handed path, they want black magic, be advised that it scares people, especially if you're male and you're going to do a hex and you're going to let somebody see you in a full-on fury. Because even though what you're angry over is perfectly rational and understandable and it's righteous anger, the optics is never good being an angry male. Like, the good example that I give for INFJ Rage is Emilia Clarke's portrayal of Daenerys Targaryen, because she nails INFJ Rage and is angry over the things INFJs get over. And why am I saying this? To give this example, that if me, a 6 foot, 170 pound male, is, say, screaming his head off at a sexual assaulter, and Amelia Clark is doing the same, and she's 5 foot 2, and we're both saying the same things, and we're in the same level of rage, they'll think she's a badass, and they'll think I'm a monster, because it's just the perception of angry dude scary. Angry dude scary. So it's just something to keep in mind. I have scared people that I've done hexes for, and they begged for months for me to do it. But to see me in a full fury, and to hear, well, a couple times I heard like the Lilith owl screech, which was badass, but it really, really can terrify them. So be aware that for a lot of people, they don't understand what the left handed path really is and what it entails. And trying to educate them may work out negatively for you, even among other witches who are, let's just say fully on a right handed path. Continue to follow your path. Don't let anybody's, I don't know, misconceptions or uneducated opinions about what it is deter you if you're being called to it. Certainly follow it. Do your reading, do your research, speak to people, know what you're getting into. And, if you're trying to work with specific deities, try to find out as much as you can about them and wonder why you want to work with that specific deity. Now, obviously, if they're calling you, it makes sense you would try to form a relationship with them. Still, learn whatever you can about them, make proper offerings and all that, and understand everything takes time. Everything that's worthwhile takes time. It never just comes like that. Anything that's really worth it, you got to fight for. And you can't expect, even on the left-handed path, that black magic, while the strongest form of magic, is not going to give you things instantaneously. People don't get that, especially non-witches who expect me to do spells for them, and they expect to be a millionaire the next week, or to have the person that they are infatuated with who despises them fall for them in a week, or have the person they're infatuated with break up with their significant other in a week. And sometimes it does happen that way, but so many people have this conception about spells that it's like on TV where you cast it and it's done. Yeah, it's done, and it's probably gonna work. It ain't like that. I wish. It'd make life a lot easier. So, try to know if the left hand, figure out if the left-handed path is for you. Follow it if you believe it is. Don't let anybody deter you from it. Know what you're getting into. Know what it is and what it isn't. Know that there are challenges on the left-handed path that are exacerbated or not on the right-handed path as much. Beware that there can be problems and complications on this path, and it is not for the faint of heart. It's something that you must be committed to. So I hope that helped my fellow brother and sisters of the craft who are considering this path. I hope it was informative. Anybody else who's on the left-handed path, if you want to critique me, like I said, I tried to make this video for people who are considering this path and some of the challenges and attributes of it, not just a video about like this is what it is. I wanted to kind of give my own experience of the challenges that I've faced, from when I was just dabbling in the left-handed path. But I mean, I wasn't just dabbling in witchcraft. I was a witch, but I wasn't sure I wanted to go down this path. And what it's been like since I've fully embraced it. So I hope it helped. Watch my other videos, please. If you've dealt with narcissism abuse, or if you're an INFJ or an ENFJ, especially if you're younger and you need some advice from somebody wiser who's been through way too much fucked up shit, who wants to help people and give his experiences and even his stories that he'd rather not talk about in order to help others not have to go through what he went through, check out this channel. Please like and subscribe. And remember, witches, trust your intuition. Don't sell out your integrity. Don't let anybody tell you you can't be a witch.